This episode of the Goal Line Fade, a Dallas sports podcast, Brian and I are going to talk about the Mavs, their incredible run they're on right now. Little Texas Rangers, are they even worth watching? And Dallas Cowboys draft news. Brian Knox, play the music. Your host with my RB1 Brian Knox. So last episode we had our pilot, and I think it went pretty good. We had a lot of content to talk about, and one thing I noticed in kind of breaking down the film was one thing we did not talk about was kind of what we want, kind of why we're doing this podcast, what really our goal is. So we're going to get into that as well as what I said at the beginning of the recording. So first off, Brian, how are you, my man?
I'm well, Zach. I'm very well. Another day in the life. As you very well know, I am not. I'm a homebody. I don't do a whole lot. So basically, I've been working and then coming home and watching film and hanging out with the wife and dogs. How about you, man? How are you?
I'm good, man, and that's good because we need film for our Cowboys draft stuff. So that's a good thing. I'm good, man. Week from hell. It's funny because it kind of concluded on Saturday for all of our listeners. Brian actually came over on Saturday. We're recording this on a Tuesday night, so we have a little bit more Mavs talk because of the game Monday. And my laptop totally took a shite. So we recorded an entire hour and 15-minute podcast and lost all of it. So that's okay. That's okay because we have a plan and we don't mind doing it again. This is fun. So that happened, and you can't see this probably, but I got stabbed in the eye with my fingernail, and I have an evil eye going on, and got better last week, had some pain today. Now is yellow in it somewhere. It is the most thing that I've ever dealt with. But besides that, the Mavs are on a tear. Just, playing my PlayStation 5, just chilling, living the married life as well. And listening to you talk about people you're breaking down film on is what I'm excited about too. And also adjusting to the Invisalign. It's been something. I got this, it'll be 3 weeks tomorrow. I finally don't have much of a lisp anymore, but it's really a change of lifestyle. I'm a very bad snacker sometimes, especially after I've had a beer or two. And it's totally nixed that completely. So for whatever that's worth, maybe that'll help.
Maybe a good thing.
Yeah, maybe it'll help shed some of the weight there. So before we get into Mavs talk, that's where we're going to start. I do want to let people know kind of what the mission is, what we want to do. So Brian and I are passionate about sports. We met over 10 years ago.
Brian, right about 10 years ago.
Brian was best man at my wedding. We love each other very much, and we love the Cowboys and the Mavs, and we always have very similar opinions. We don't really butt heads too much, which is definitely a good thing. And sometimes listening to the radio, because we love sports so much, we're going to listen to whether it's ESPN, the Fan, the Ticket. It just, we beat our head, against these things that are said, because sometimes you have to come up with this just narrative that's not even really needed for things like the Mavs, for instance. Like right now, because Mark Followell, who works for the Mavs, and Brett Cooper, all these people that are tweeting things about how good the Mavs are right now. Like it's funny, I was listening to the radio on the way home, and that's all they're talking about is their defensive rating and everything else. And these are things you and I have been talking about for weeks. And it's because now somebody's going to say it, and it's just very overreactionary. And we get it. You're on the radio 8 hours a day. You've got to produce content. Well, we've got this hour box a week that we're going to do. So we're just trying to going to give the most real takes we can about what we think and where we think the teams are going, and kind of break things down so that you are the smartest person at the water cooler. And also, Brian, it's something we're going to do is we are going to have reactionary pods. Okay. So we're always going to be doing at least one episode a week. But when football season's going, we will react to every single Cowboys game unless we're somewhere on vacation. So even then, we probably could do it for a few minutes anyway. But we were either going to get on Zoom so we can upload it to YouTube, upload it to Spotify. We're on 17 different platforms. So we're going to give our just knee-jerk live, it just happened reaction, so that Sunday, if you need something to cope with, whether it was a win or loss, or that Monday morning on your way to work, there's something to listen to so you can hear our opinions on that. Anything you would like to add, Brian?
No, and not just Cowboys games, of course. Big Mavs games, playoff game series, etc.
We got a playoff run coming for the Mavs.
Yes, and when the Rangers make the playoffs. Nice. But
hey, we got another home run just now. They're up 3-1 tonight.
All right. Well, anyway. Yeah, it's there's going to be plenty of times where we're going to have emergency podcasts, big breaking news, whatever the case may be. So that's all I've got to add.
Absolutely. We do have 4 5-star ratings, so thank you for the 4 individuals who got and did that. We have 1 written review. I joked about this on the recorded pod that we lost, but I'm going to joke about it again because I think it's funny. The 1 review is from a user whose name is T Loves the Z. I think that's my wife. My name is obviously Zach, and my wife's name is Tara. If it's not, I've already got a stalker after 1 episode, and that's also damn cool. So either way, thank you for the review. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TechmoZach. I'm pretty active. I retweet a lot of stuff more than saying anything, but I try to be active. And we actually have our own Twitter as well if you want to follow it for the podcast, which is GLFDFW. Brian, where can these people find you?
It's at Hugh HUGH _honey. It'll probably be changing in the next week or 2, but for right now, it's at Hugh _honey.
Rock and roll. All right. So let's do this. Let's get started with the Mavs. Okay. So first off, Mavs, Woza. This number just keeps going up every time we're trying to do the pod. The Mavs are now 18-6 since February the 6th, which is the 4th. It's still the 4th best in the NBA.
Yeah.
Not only is that where they've been at this time, they also are now 7th, and they're only 2 games out of. They're 3 games out of being 4th right now.
Yep.
So they're right 2 games behind Portland, which means you're not in the play-in tournament, and then they're just 3 games away just from being wherever.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, something that bears watching is there are some back-to-backs coming up. So what is going to happen? Obviously, Rick Carlisle, they have a plan. I know that tomorrow, Porzingis is supposed to play.
He's supposed to play, yeah.
Milwaukee the next night, though. Or we kind of probably need him more versus Milwaukee than Houston. I don't know. Is he going to play a back-to-back? I don't know what the plan is. We will find out.
Maybe that's why they're going to play him the first night, though, is because it's a bit of an easier game. He's not going to be the matchup's easier on him across the board, not having to deal with Giannis and Houston doesn't really have anybody that's going to be tough on him.
And they proved with their big W last night versus Utah that it's funny because we're, what we talked about, which didn't get put on the air last week, we were talking about Porzingis and we were doing a New York Knicks reaction, right? We recorded Saturday. It was the game after the Knicks game. And we were talking about how he just doesn't show up. And it's like, if there's any game that's a revenge game, if there's any game where you're going to go off, and he had 14-8, and I'm not saying that, that we were in control, whatever, but it's just, he just doesn't have that, when you think of a big, your Batman to your Robin, so to speak, you think of a Shaq Kobe, you think of Donovan Mitchell and Gobert right now, you think of LeBron
even if it's not a true Batman big man, just think of even like Tyson Chandler. Tyson Chandler, when he was here with the Mavs, there were games, where he was fired up, where we would get more out of him than we're getting on KP, than we got out of KP on what should have been one of the biggest games of the season for him. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. And that's very true. Like, the problem with Porzingis is that, I want him to be good so bad. And I think the Mavs do too. And that might be the issue. And one of the things that we'll be talking about as the off season approaches, because we still have a hell of a run, I think, ahead of us for the Mavs, is one of the things we're going to discuss is that ultimately going to be the move? Because we have Luka, and Luka's very, very much. I know people are going to hear it and be like, dude, no, he's not. He's not like LeBron. But guess what? That first team LeBron took to the finals in the East was dog shit. Their second best player was Eric Snow. Is that right?
No. So I heard
Booby
that.
Gibson? Booby Gibson,
well,
right.
What was Zadrunas Ilgauskas was probably the second best player on that team.
He was an all-star that year too, right?
Yeah, but everybody
Eric Snow
else
was on the Sixers whenever they had Allen Iverson.
Iverson. No, Booby Gibson would get hot and but the same team, they were terrible. No one on that team, Ilgauskas wouldn't have been an all-star without LeBron on that team. He would have been a league average big man who probably would have done 8 and 8, averaged 8 and 8. But playing with LeBron made him better, which is another way that they're similar.
Well, that's something I wanted to bring up, by the way. So I found this on Twitter. Forgive me for not remembering who tweeted it. Let's see. I'm going to pull it up. And there's a chart that shows, this is what, if I'm pitching free agents to come here this summer, I'm probably showing them this chart and saying, hey, look at what happens with Luka versus without. So it's a list of the Mavs and their 3-point percentages. Jalen Brunson is shooting 47% with Luka on the court, excuse me. He's 34 without. All right. Dorian Finney-Smith, this one's what's nuts.
I was going to say.
Lights freaking out and shit.
Yes, sir. Yes.
39% from 3 with Luka. 26 without.
Ooh. That doesn't surprise me, but still, that's a big drop.
Oh, yeah. Porzingis, 42%. And he falls to 30 with no Luka. And that's because he's just jacking up half-court shots, it seems, like a weirdo. Yeah. Luka won't give him the ball anymore, trying that stuff. He's like, nope, we're not wasting possessions, dude.
Yeah.
Trey Burke is almost the same. He's kind of out of the rotation anyway right now, 40 and 36, so not too much of a difference. Hardaway Jr., same thing, 42%, 38%, still a 4% increase.
Yeah.
And then Josh Richardson and Kleba also a little bit similar. We've got Maxey at 45% versus 41 without, and then Josh Richardson 33% versus 31. So 100% upgrade with everyone, which is just fantastic. It's very nice.
Yeah. It's I think look, a lot of people talk about it, but I still think it's underrated. His effect on the entire game, how much better he makes everybody else around him. There's no one his age. We haven't seen anyone his age have that kind of effect on a team in a very long time.
That brings to the next point. The man who got the defensive belt last night, Melly. All right. What seemed like a throw-in, honestly, to the JJ Redick trade, right?
Totally. We didn't even think a lot of people didn't think he'd even be on the team. We thought there'd be a buyout. He
started 3 games now or 2? I think it's 2.
I think it's 2, yeah. And then but contributed significantly.
He hustles. He has a knack for offensive boards. Not necessarily, I think he's averaging maybe 2.5 offensive boards a game right now, but the ball will come to him and he'll find a way to tip it, but not only just tip, but it stays, it goes in a direction that's going to keep a second chance point opportunity going. It's very, very awesome to see. And Rick can't keep the dude off the court, honestly.
Yeah. Well, he's, they, to quote, it's something that Mike McCarthy said at a Cowboys press conference the other day, but it still applies here, which is you can't have enough 6'5" to 6'8" athletic, long guys, especially ones who are going to hustle the way he hustles. They're going to just lock down guys when they need to. They're going to go after boards. They're going to be the dirt, the hustle guys, the dirty guys that are going to get in there, and they're the glue guys of the team,
And he looks like Teen Wolf with a shirt off.
Yes, he does. His choke hair looks like the Batman symbol.
Yeah. In case you don't know, and you're a listener, the Mavs, every game they win, they don't do it when they lose because that would be foolish. But on games that they win, they actually give out a defensive belt. And that defensive belt is for whatever player they feel did the best. And they gave it to him, and he did so great. Like they gave it to Kleba, the game we won versus the Clippers when he shut down Kawhi. Also, they gave it to him whenever he shut down. The name's escaping me. Who did he destroy? Knicks.
Julius Randle. Julius Randle.
That's right. So it's been an impressive run, man. And if the Mavs continue at this pace, we're talking 3, 4, 5 seed realistically. People might have listened to our first episode calling us homers, saying but it's materializing in front of our face right now.
Especially with the way that the Lakers are, they're and there's no LeBron in. It's going to be a little while. And look, you mentioned it earlier, something that we both heard on the radio on the drive home from work. And it was numbers that Cooperstein and Followell had tweeted out. It's still, even though what you said is all accurate, some of these numbers are still worth mentioning. I want to bring them up.
Sure.
So 9 of the last 20 games, the Mavs have held their opponents to 12 points or more below their season average, right? So if a team comes in playing the Mavs, 9 of the last 20 games, if that team is averaging 110 points a game, the Mavs hold them to 98 or more or lower, right? 16 of the last 20 games, they've held their opponents below their season average as a whole, right? And over the last 20 games, the Mavs have the best field goal defense in the entire NBA. The entire NBA. Opponents are shooting 43.4% from the field.
It's impressive.
That's
awesome. That's very good.
Especially if you consider I'm not even going to say where they were earlier in the season.
In this stretch,
ups and downs. Yeah, absolutely.
Clippers twice, Portland twice. You've got was Denver in this? I don't think Denver was in this stretch actually. Maybe they won one game versus Denver. And then obviously Utah is the best team. And I know some of the pundits, the people who want to, Utah had an off shooting night, but guess what? They still did damn good. There was, I think, 9 3-pointers in a row at one point last night, just back and forth between both teams. It was just boom.
The reason the Jazz had an off shooting night is because Dallas played their ass off on defense.
Thank you.
It's cute that people are trying to take away credit from Dallas's defense, but the numbers I just read off tell you that this isn't an aberration. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to be able to hold this the entire season. They're playing right now. They're playing their asses off. But it wasn't Utah being cold that caused them to miss the shots that they had to shoot as poorly as they did. It's because Dallas locked them down. And another thing I want to say about Luka real quick, a lot of people are not giving him the credit for the turnaround and improvement in his defense from last year to this year, or earlier in his career to this year. No one's gonna mistake him for Bruce Bowen, right? But he went from an awful defender when he got into the league to an above average league defender. And above again, he's not going to be the guy that you want locking down the best player on the court, but he's definitely no longer a liability. His length, his size gives them a lot of options, and it work. They play more than having a bunch of lockdown defenders. They play great team defense.
And something to be excited about, not only is the fact that they're playing their asses off on defense, they're very efficient on offense. Luka, when the season started, his 3-point percentage looked like he took a step back, literally. And he last night 6 3-pointers. He is he is really taking to his own. And Redick is within the 5 games away, maybe, of debuting. He hasn't even played yet, and that's gonna be another wrinkle they have to figure out over the course of the last 15 or so games.
Which, by the way, it may make them take a step back for a game or two until they can work that stuff out. But in the long run, especially as we get to the postseason, it's only going to help, I think. Go ahead.
Rick is a great coach, and I will go to bat for anybody who talks shit about him anytime. Oh, Rick needs to go. He needs to do that. One issue he does have, noticeably, is he will, like, figuring out minutes seems to be his kryptonite. Like every beginning of the year, it takes him about
Yeah.
5 to 6 games to figure out, when am I going to sub out Luka? When's this player going to come in? What's going to happen here? And don't get me wrong, I don't watch every Portland Trailblazer game, right? I don't watch
Sure.
every Lakers game. So there might be some of that with other coaches as well. But watching Rick Carlisle coach for a very, very long time now, that's one thing that I've noticed is that he kind of struggles in the beginning. So I could see using it might be best just to kind of sprinkle Reddick in here and there for 2 and 3 minute spurts, jack up a couple threes, see if he can get space, get open, and
Sure.
just open the offense up a little bit. I'm intrigued to see what he does and how they use him, and it's gonna be good. Real good.
Yeah, and also in the I agree with you 100% on the 2 to 3 minute spurts, because also Rick's gonna have to figure out who he plays well with, who does he vibe with. And Luke is going to have to figure out, okay, where on the court does he like the ball? All that, they've got to figure out how to play together. And in a very small, the number of games they have left in the season is shrinking by the second. So it's definitely, they don't have a ton of time to fold him into the equation, but they'll get it worked out. I'm not worried about it. I trust Rick.
I would think that Trey Burke is probably the biggest casualty even though he didn't play the other night either. I would think if anything, he's the one that takes another hit, and then maybe Powell's minutes, because was Willie Cauley-Stein ever coming back? He's been gone for quite a minute now. I know he has a wee one, so maybe the COVID situation's a little bit more important. I don't know. I don't know. They haven't really said much.
Yeah, and I don't think they're gonna say a whole lot until they absolutely have to.
Right.
And it's not like we're missing either of them, really. It's not like we're missing Willie Cauley-Stein. So I think I think he'll be there if they need him, but that's about it.
Okay. Any more Mavs nuggets you want to drop before we move on?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, we've got Houston coming up tomorrow. Back that up with Milwaukee. We got Philly on the horizon. So they've got Houston's young. So sometimes when you're young, you're fucked up. And sometimes what that means is that you come out of nowhere and play really, really well. So that could be a thing, but I feel confident about that game. Greek Freak's not playing tonight. I don't know if he's still going to be injured on Thursday or not, but he was just ruled out. I get notifications galore for all the fantasy sports that I play going off of my phone. So he's not playing this evening. So something to keep an eye on for Thursday night's game. But it's looking good, man. It's definitely, if you're not watching the Mavs, you need to. It's like, think of the Stars 2 years ago, that magical run. I'm admittedly a bandwagon hockey fan. I absolutely love the playoffs 100%. Baseball, I'll watch as many games as possible. Mavs, I'll watch every single game. Cowboys, I'll watch every single game. But as far as hockey goes, man, that's just one I can't fit in the schedule, man. I guess it's going on the same time that basketball is, and I'm so committed to my Mavs. So it's going to be, it could end up like one of those kind of runs, which is just so enjoyable, so awesome. And
they have that vibe. They've got that kind of vibe, very much so.
Oh yeah. So on to the Texas Rangers. Okay. The Texas Rangers have won one game so far. They're well on their way to a second if they don't blow it. They don't blow it. They have not looked great. Brian and I, though, do know that baseball is big. We're in Texas and the stadium looks awesome and we want to go and maybe even do like a pod from the stands. Who knows? There's a bunch of things that we could go on and do. But there is some things to kind of pay attention that we're going to be watching. And if you are thinking, when you're told your team's going to have the first, second, or third draft pick, I don't know, especially with 162 games, if you're watching any of them. If you look at a review of a team and it says, hey, this is what they're going to be, this is where they are, this is what's going on, you kind of just might this is not worth my time.
Tune it out. Yeah.
I'm here to tell you that I do think that the Rangers are worth some of your time. Not watching every game, maybe a game a series, maybe 2 games a week, but there's some things to pay attention to. So, Brian, who is a player that you think we need to pay attention to?
I've got a few. Obviously, Joey Gallo, right? He had an off day yesterday. But
the first time out, he was on base because he got hit, but he did not get hit. He literally got
3 strikeouts, I think. Which, that's going to happen. That's his kryptonite. Strikeouts are his kryptonite. But so far, he is hitting the ball really well. He is absolutely his on base percentage. Unfortunately, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but his on base percentage, I think it's in the 600s. His OPS is like 1.4. He is playing his ass off, and if he can keep it up, it's going to be a good season for Joey Gallo. And then there's some young guys. I mean, I know who. I'll let you go next. Who's your top one to watch?
And Joey Gallo. By the way, Joey Gallo, I got him in like the 12th round in our fantasy baseball league. I think that was a pretty good steal, actually.
Yeah, not too bad.
I with Joey Gallo, real quick before I go with mine. One thing that I've noticed too is that his plate discipline is so much like 2019 than it was last year. I remember how impressed I was with the Rangers manager and just the whole team with their plate discipline that year. The games took a lot longer because there were so many balls and they weren't swinging at everything. And man, it's very impressive to me that he seems to go back to that. Now, I know he had COVID last year, and obviously we're in a pandemic. People's heads aren't right. Everything's going on. But for me, it's nice to see because I like him. I want him to stay. I talked about on the pod that didn't get released, so I'm into it again. Yeah, I don't think there's a bad year for Gallo. I think there's two things that happen. I think you're either Joey Gallo is going to have an amazing year and the Rangers decide to keep him and he's their stud, he's their star they build around, or he's going to do so good because we're bad and they trade him away for a shit ton of prospects to a good team. Brian hopes that's what happens, which I'm not saying he's wrong. I don't want it to because I'm all about me some Gallo, but Brian very much hopes that is what's happened because we definitely do. Just watching the games, we need more than a player. And that's really they need 5 or 6. Speaking of that, for me, we made a trade last year and we got this kid at first base, and I picked him on waivers, also in fantasy baseball, by the way. But Nate Lowe is straight raking. First baseman who rake. He's got RBIs. He just hit a home run tonight, his second home run already. He is destroying it, and he's hitting. The offense of the Rangers is fun. It doesn't suck. They got 1 run yesterday. Other than that, it's been 5 or 6 runs every game. So it's definitely, if you like offense, they're going to be a fun team to watch, I think. And Nate Lowe, for me, is that dude, man. Did we finally hit on a trade, dude? Did it finally happen? Like it's 5 years coming. And
I was going to say, it's been a long time. It's been a long, long time.
I mean, you got... it things like it's working. We'll see. It's beginning. We're 4 games in, but damn it, I like it. I like it for 4 games. Old Nate Lowe.
There's definitely good signs right now. Lowe is playing well. Dahl is exciting. Dahl
good
is
free agent money, right?
Absolutely. And his ERA is not great, but and I know you're a big fan as well. We were watching the game on Saturday. Arihara.
Yeah, Arihara.
Arihara Kohei.
It sounds like the sword from Kill Bill is what his name sounds like.
Yes, it does.
Hari Hanzo, is that what the Hari Hanzo? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's he again, his ERA right now is over 5. But he was pitching his ass off for the first 4 innings of that game on Saturday.
There was a huge error, right? Like Trevino. Didn't he just fuck up completely?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but it wasn't Trevino.
He's going for the ball. For our listeners, you can't see me. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, literally, this is the claw like Jim Carrey in the movie, right? In Liar Liar. This is his hand. And the ball, he's like decides to not move. So he just stops like this. And the ball's coming towards his hand, which is standing still. And it literally goes like 3 feet to the right. Like, I don't know if he looked up and the light got in his eyes because it was a sunny day and he needed to be wearing shades or what, but completely, it would all went off rails after that. And I'm not saying that he would have had that Hari Hanzo, that's what I'm going to call him from now on. Now, Arihara, I'm not going to say that he was going to get the win or that he looked amazing because he certainly wasn't getting strikeouts, but the command was good. Yeah. It's a player to watch. Dunning tonight, as another rookie prospect we have, we're winning 5-1 right now. It's a tandem sport. I don't think Taylor Hearn's in yet. I'll let you know in a second whenever we get back on defense. But Taylor Hearn's another player to be excited about as well. Pitching is not as shitty as people think. I think as we get deeper, it is. But I don't hate the starting rotation. I don't love it, but there certainly could be worse.
The bullpen is not good.
No, that's
rough.
That's where it struggles a little bit. It's evident, but if they score 7,
You know who I'm not going to be excited about playing for the Rangers this year? Odor.
Yes, and why is that? Because he's not.
Because he's not playing for the Rangers, right? It's crazy.
No, Odor was traded. His ass was traded to the Yankees. Not only did we trade his ass to the Yankees, we were still paying his salary. That's how bad we wanted to do it at town. But
did you see? Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
you're going well.
Why we did that because we actually got something out of it. You see, at first there weren't players' names. Baseball's it takes a minute because a lot of times it's prospects for big name players, so you don't necessarily know who's traded when. Well, finally, after about an hour, we found out what it is. After we found out Odor's gone, then we find out the Rangers are paying all of his money. Now you find out that the Rangers got 2 prospects, both outfielders, Antonio Cabello and Josh Stowers. So I don't know if Brian knows more than I do about these guys. I'm not very familiar with the farm league of the New York Yankees, but I do know one thing that I like to do. I like to read comments on tweets to see how pissed off the fuck people are. And Yankee fans were not very happy with the deal. So that made me think maybe we got a good one, especially with this Stowers guy. They were really pissed off that Stowers is not going to be there anymore. So take that for what it's worth. This is the Twitter world. Anybody can say anything about anything at any time. Or Instagram. Think about Paul Pierce and his twerking thing. You can put whatever you want out there. But they seem really pissed off about the deal. So that's a win, I think. I think that's a win for the Rangers.
Yeah, I know. I don't know a ton about them, but after I found out, I did a little digging, right? Just a little kind of Googling and whatever. So Cabello is 20. Stowers, whatever it is 24. Roads. Stowers is 24. He is a lot closer to being major league ready. He was last year in Double-A, batting around 250, had around 10 home runs. I mean, again, not going to be some top flight prospect, right? And Antonio Cabello was in Single-A and had some time in Double-A where he was also batting. He was batting actually like 252, and I think Stowers was like 264. Neither one of them are going to probably end up being like cornerstone players, but Rugi was not going to. He wasn't even going to make the roster, so he's gone. So
it was time.
It's a win. It's a win.
And hopefully good for him. Hopefully he does better. I liked him. He seems like a great guy. He likes horses. That's cool. Just it was time to go. Dunning is still pitching at the top of the 4th, by the way.
Okay. All right.
So it's a hell of an outing right now. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Running.
Anything we can do to keep that bullpen from getting out there.
Dude. So I guess the only other name on the list for me really is Willie Calhoun, battling injuries. I was pretty excited about him on our squad. 2019, he showed at the very end of the year. Last year was very forgettable, but man, weird 6-week season. If you're in a bad groove, the season was over, right?
Yeah.
What are we thinking about Willie? Are we hopeful? We're ready for him to come off the injured list next week and see what he's got? I
think he better be hopeful because I think this is probably his last real shot, at least with this team. And I don't know if any other team is going to give him much of a look. Right. He's still young enough that there's upside there, but he's been so inconsistent, constantly hurt. He's going to have to prove that he can stay at least healthy enough to be useful to a major league team. And I think if he can do that, when he's been healthy, he's been pretty good. He can hit for power, and that's really what you need him to do. And I think if he can stay relatively healthy, he should be at least all right.
Well, the one thing that the one thing to pay attention to with him as well is he's going to have a really short leash. And the reason why I say that is because we also have Chris Davis about to come off the IL as well. And he is going to definitely be a situational start. Like, I don't think he can, I mean, he hasn't been really relevant for too much in a while, but he,
since he was a Ranger killer.
Oh, he definitely, that's when he would do well, was against the Rangers. And then Guzman, like tonight, for instance, Guzman started at first. They put Lowe in at the DH. So it's going to be interesting. I've seen the Holt a little bit. So they've been moving things around. So we'll see with old Willie. I'm rooting for him. I know that he's openly talked about some mental health stuff, which we, hate to see. And good for him for getting it out there and talking about it. I think that's the great thing about, of all the damn weird things going on in the world right now, I think one of the coolest things that as people that we are doing is, I'm rocking my nerd stuff behind me, and it's okay. I don't care that people know I like Wonder Woman and Batman and Street Fighter. It's all right. And like, if you have, problems with your mental health, it's okay to talk about it. And you're not a pussy. You're not, you know what I mean? You're not.
It makes me root for those guys. Actually, it makes me root stronger and more for them.
Absolutely. I agree. Couldn't agree more. So that is Rangers talk, unless you have anything else you want to add, my man.
No, that covers it for me.
It's still 5-1, by the way. Go Rangers.
All right.
Don't break my heart again. Don't break my heart again, please. All right. So we're gonna finish, leave the podcast, talking about the Cowboys in the NFL. So first off, the next episode is going to be recorded on Friday. And we are going to be doing a mock draft for the NFL draft. And we're really excited about that. We've got about 3 weeks until the NFL draft comes up. We actually had, originally, when we recorded on our episode that never happened, but did happen, but didn't happen, we actually were talking a lot of draft things, but we decided to pull back and kind of just tease it a little bit and lead it into the episode that's going to be pretty much all draft on Friday. So first off, NFL news, Sam Darnold, which Brian and I talked about on our first episode, was traded to the Panthers for a 6th round pick this year, a 2nd, and a 4th next year. Now the Panthers pick 4th, right? Atlanta picks 5th.
No. The Panthers pick 8th. The Falcons pick 4th.
That's right. Excuse me. So we've got a conundrum right now where the Cowboys pick 10th. And what is the Sam Darnold trade? In all these wild trades going on, what does it mean? Like, as a Cowboys fan right now, when you're sitting at 10, I'm team trade back. I admitted it last episode. I'm admitting it again right now. That's what I want. What are we thinking heading into the number 10 pick as a Cowboys fan right now?
Well, one thing it definitely does is that it injects some uncertainty to the situation, right? Before this trade, you had a pretty good idea what was going to happen.
Right.
And now San Francisco's moved to 3. So, it's going to go quarterback, 1, 2, 3.
Sure.
Then Atlanta's the first real question mark. What are they going to do? Where it really starts getting interesting is with the Carolina situation now. They could still, there are some people who think they're going to go draft a quarterback if one falls to them anyway. I don't. I think they're going to end up trading out of that spot.
I do too. I think they're going to rock Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I think they're going to go with Sam Darnold, and I don't think they're going to make a pick at 8. There's a caveat there. They may have 1 or 2 players that if one of those players falls to them, they'll take them. But if not, I think they trade back to a team like New England or Washington, somebody who's going to come up for a quarterback.
Sure. Well, it's what we talked about last year. Sorry about that. Remember we talked about the Bears. We were joking about the Bears having Andy Dalton, and I proposed to you. I said, Brian, would you trade for Sam Darnold if you were the Bears? And now that we know what the asking price was, we thought it was a 3rd or 4th for this year. I think they got a decent deal, and the reason why I think is this too. Like, let's say that they don't go quarterback, they move back, they load up on defensive talent, offensive talent, fill it up, right? Protect Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold isn't it, And there's a lot of people that think that he's not. You and I are on record thinking that just terrible situation. We think he's going to Ryan Tannehill the shit out of it. Be awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Or at least serviceable.
Sure. And if he's not, though, were you going to win a Super Bowl with Teddy Bridgewater? Were you going to win a Super Bowl with who you pick at 8? Or
not this year?
Do that? Probably not. So I think that they might have the mentality that I said about the Bears, where let's trade for him, see what happens. Let's build up this team. If it goes freaking south, the ownership's cool with me. They understand what I'm trying to do here. My job's safe. GM's job's safe. This is why we did this. And then move on after. And then you're looking at a top 3 pick that you have total control over, probably, as opposed to just waiting to see what falls.
Yeah.
And they still could take a quarterback at 8, like you said, but I think they're moving back. I don't think you trade for a guy to not have the guy.
Yeah, and I again look. I think the only chance, and this is the only way that they would take a quarterback, I think, is if a guy that they never thought would fall to them ends up falling to them. So there's a lot of people who think there's a lot of rumors that I'm sorry.
Is it Justin Fields is going to fall? Is that the rumor?
Yeah, that Justin Fields is going to fall because Mac Jones is going to go third to the Niners, which I don't think that's going to happen. I hope it does. If it does,
that's a smoke screen. If it's not,
absolutely. But I really hope it does. I don't think it will, but I hope it does, because if Mac Jones goes third, then you and I are both team trade back.
Sure.
Trade down, and if Justin Fields or Trey Lance, one of those 2 quarterbacks, one of the top tier quarterbacks, ends up available at 10, that's great for us, because then we can call New England. We can call. We're not going to trade with the Redskins, but we can call some of these other teams, that Chicago, even though they've got Andy Dalton.
The football team, Brian. The football team.
Sorry. We could call one of them. It's not going to be Washington, but we could call somebody and get a king's ransom for that pick if Trey Lance or if Fields is there. And I hope that happens, but I don't think it will.
So what do you think? So gut reaction. It's still 3 weeks away. A lot of shit can kind of shift around. Okay. Yeah. Sam Darnold trade with the Panthers. Does that affect the Cowboys in a good way or bad way, you think? Or is it a wash for what?
It's not a wash. I think it's got potential. Again, if you are pro trade back, I think it's got. I think it opens things up to where we may end up in a spot where one of the top quarterbacks still ends up at 10, and we're in a spot where maybe we can go fleece New England for, say we move back to 15 and get a 2 and a 2 this year and a 2 next year, or maybe a first round pick next year and a 3 this year, or something like that. So I think it's positive for the Cowboys. I do. They may end up now, if Carolina sticks and picks, they may end up taking a player that we might want, but there's still 3 or 4 players that are going to fall to the Cowboys that if we decide to pick will be fine.
Do you think they would go? I mean, wide receiver might be if they think Sammy is the guy. That's probably where you get one, right?
No, see, they've got weapons. If
they
they've got a couple wide receivers. They've got Christian McCaffrey. They're all right weapons wise. I think there's 3 players that they might take, and it's either 4. It's either one of the 2 tackles, right? Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater.
That would be the really good one for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Fantasy purposes.
I think if Kyle Pitts is still there, I think they snatch him up.
Okay.
And so for the Cowboys, if a lot of people were hoping Kyle Pitts would be there, that's one negative. I don't think Kyle Pitts makes it past Carolina now with them not needing a quarterback. And the other option is Patrick Surtain. They may take Patrick Surtain because they do need cornerback help. So it just kind of depends.
Young, underrated defense, by the way. Like it's better than people know. Like I remember, you and I play fantasy football together. I remember streaming my defense towards the end of the year, and I'm looking at, points, and I'm like, dude, Carolina kind of doesn't suck on defense right now. Like I'm thought about it, but then I was like, no, I don't have the balls to do it. Like I was like, yeah, no, just keep it going. But that's good for them. Good for them.
They're again, if Darnold can get it together and play worth a shit this year, they could be a sneaky good team. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go win the Super Bowl, but they could sneak into the playoffs if Sam Darnold isn't a bag of shit.
Yeah, and we'll see. And we don't know, man. Like I said, there's this thing, look at Dennis Smith Jr. in basketball to draw a parallel right now. There's a thing called mentality and the head game in between the eyes, right? And sometimes, regardless of what mechanics say, it's just not there. And maybe 3 years of that, maybe that just ended the man. We don't know.
Broken. Right? Yeah, it may have broken.
And we won't know till he's in a good system. I just know that I like Teddy Bridgewater. I think Sam Darnold's a better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater, though. And I think the Panthers do too. That's why they traded for him for obvious reasons. And I kind of trust what they get going on over there. They seem to be building a team the right way. So it's something to keep an eye on.
Matt Rule appears to be a solid head coach. Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, knows his shit. He is a solid offensive coordinator. So yeah, I'm with you. They seem to be putting something together.
Top of the fifth, Dunning is still in the game.
All right. Wow.
Let's go Rangers. Let's go. All right. So one last thing before we close. The NFL is now going to have 17 weeks. That has been talked about for a while. It's finally a thing. It is official. The Cowboys will be playing the Patriots in New England for that extra game. We don't know if that just adds on and that's the last week now. Hopefully not, because going to New England in January doesn't seem fun for anyone. But we'll do what we got to do, I guess, as the Dallas Cowboys. So I have a quick question for you. Obviously, so the NFL's gone from 13 to 16 to now we're at 17, right? What record is getting broke first, dude? Like, what is it? Is it the single season passing record? Is it the touchdown record? Is it the rushing? What's going to get smashed first with this extra game?
It's not the rushing. It's the passing yards. That's my take is it's going to be the passing yards. And hot take, it's going to be Rain Dakota Prescott who breaks it.
Yeah, he was on pace for 7,000 yards last year before he got injured and turned his foot upside down, Yeah,
this year he's going to set the record. That's my bold prediction. Way too early is he's going to set the record with the extra, with having the extra game. He's going to set the record for most pass yards in a season. It's not going to be rushing because nobody uses. It's not like how it was even 10 years ago, right? You don't have LaDainian Tomlinson or Adrian Peterson or any of those guys. Everybody uses platoons.
Except for Henry. He's the only guy. When's the last time? Because he ran for 2,000 this year, right? When's the last time somebody ran for 2,000 2 years in a row? History is very against that, right?
Terrell Davis. Terrell Davis did it in the 90s.
Right?
And that, I mean,
Sean Alexander broke his foot the year after he did it, and that's the last one I remember, right?
Sean Alexander didn't even get to 2,000. He got to like 1,900 and change.
Okay.
Adrian Peterson only did it once. I mean, LT only did it once. I don't think LT ever even did it. Jamal Lewis did it once, but it's crazy. Nobody does it twice.
So that would. If you're a fantasy football player, I'm not saying that you should go off superstition, but I would probably pick the guy ranked right behind Derrick Henry.
Well,
that is what we're basically saying right now, going off the history of the league.
Well, dude, you got to think. You got to also look at the number of carries he's had over the last 3 years. Those wheels are about to fall off. I hope he plays forever. I love watching the man play. It's awesome. It's great. It's great. But right now, by NFL running back standards, that dude's 40 years old.
So you don't think Zeke's about to break the rushing record this year with the extra game?
I don't think Zeke's the best running back on the Cowboys.
Yeah, Team Pollard, man. I think Zeke is going to bounce back and shut a lot of people up this year. And then we're going to trade or cut him the year after. Is what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I sure hope so. Because right now we couldn't trade him. Literally, you could not get a 7th round pick for Zeke.
You just have to cut it.
Yeah, because his salary is so. I think like right now, his salary is one of the 10 worst contracts in the entire league. And
sure.
it's, again, I like Zeke, but this is one thing where I'm going to agree with a lot of the statty nerd folks in the football world, where I am for never paying a running. I don't think you should ever draft a running back in the first round, and I don't think you should ever give a running back a second contract. Ever. Yeah. Not ever, not ever, not ever at all.
The evidence is 100% there. And I've been Team Zeke. I still will defend him. You know, I've gotten arguments with people who think that we should have went, you know, Jalen Ramsey.
Me. Yeah. I think that. I was at your house that night.
Would he even be on the team, though? Would he even be on the team right now? Would Jerry Jones have figured out that contract the way he likes to play ball and contracts? Like,
you know what? Here's the thing. Here, I got one for you, right?
Okay, perfect. Bring it.
If the Cowboys had done the smart thing and drafted Jalen Ramsey, right? Mm-hmm. How would you like, instead of Zeke and Jalen Smith, how about I give you Jalen Ramsey,
Derrick Henry,
or better yet, or maybe not better yet, even if you decide you don't want Derrick Henry for whatever reason and you want to do something different, they say that they were in love with the idea of having McFadden, which would have been stupid, but okay. You could draft Miles Jack they should have drafted Miles Jack instead of Jalen Smith, which I don't know if you remember, but that was the guy I was pounding on the table for. And he's the best, one of the 2 or 3 best linebackers in all of football. Anyway, we're getting derailed. The point is, I think Zeke is an awesome teammate. I think he is, and I think he's a terrific running back. I think that Jason Garrett burned him out. They overused him, and I don't know if he's ever going to be the same again, but it doesn't really matter because we're stuck with him at least for this year and probably next year.
Right.
So, you know, I think they need to be splitting carries almost 50-50 because Pollard is dynamic.
He needs carries for sure. It's looked really good.
Yeah.
And speaking of really good, so the episode we're going to do on Friday is going to be our first mock draft. We have about 3 weeks until then. So we're going to do the NFC East, Brian and I. Brian is going to do the Cowboys and the football team, since he can't remember their name. And I'm going to do the Giants and the Eagles. And we're just going to try to just do we're going to use one of those apps and we're not doing the whole thing, just, you know, what those 2 teams are going to take each and kind of cover those and break down what we think. I would not be surprised to see Knox trading back in his. We are both team trade back for the Cowboys, but just kind of pay attention to what's going to be what we think might be going on in the Cowboys world with the draft. More than likely, unless any big news happens between now and then, our first live reactionary episode will be draft night. I think we'll probably hop on as soon as the Cowboys make their pick and record while the draft is still going and talk about who they got, what we think. Probably going to start recording probably on pick 8 or 7, actually, kind of to the build up to it. So that's going to be really exciting. We're pumped for that. And then just every week pushing out content. And, you know, on this Anchor, I know that it's an app you have to download, and we have so many damn apps on our phone. But if you want to make comments or you want to leave voice messages or ask questions or things you'd like to see us cover, you can go on Anchor and actually leave voicemails for us that we can play on the show and we can address and talk about as well. Even if you just want to log on and say, Zach, you suck. I saw you wipe your nose 4 times on this thing. What's wrong with you? That's okay too, if that's what you want to do. We like the reviews. Thank you for the 4 or 5-star reviews we got. Keep them coming if you like what's going on. It helps people find this podcast so that we can take over the world one podcast at a time. Brian, anything that you want to say in closing, sir?
No, not at all. Well, except for, as you've said a couple of times, this is also going up on YouTube. So please make sure to like and subscribe, share the video, tell your friends and family. Anybody you know that likes the Cowboys, likes the Mavs, likes the Rangers, let them know, because we greatly appreciate it. And as Zach said, thank you very much for the 5-star reviews. Keep them coming. That's it.
And we'll talk stars when they do well. I promise. We will. I really swear we will. This is the Goal Line Fade, a Dallas sports podcast. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow me on Twitter at TechmoZach, and you can find Brian on his name that is
at Hugh HUGH _ Honey HONEY.
Thank you so very much for listening. We're out.